Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a little while. I've been a little under the weather, so I didn't make a podcast last week. I hope everybody's doing well. You know, sometimes I have so much on my mind that I'm ready to talk about. And once I get on, it kind of goes somewhat blank. But I guess this is how it goes sometimes. But I'm going to talk about a few things this afternoon. Won't go too far into it. There's just some concepts and topics that I would like to talk about. You know, I hope people have enjoyed listening to some of it. I am new to this. Just getting into the podcast realm. But I think it's good for a lot of people to do. You know, speak your voice. So many people are educated in so many things and well-read and don't regurgitate the mainstream. There's so many lies and hidden things that we have not been told about. You know, we're born into a system and then we're presented with a reality that is given to us. We're not taught to think outside of the paradigm that is presented when we come out of our mother's womb. Majority of people go to public school and they're taught a curriculum that was given to them. And when you look down into it, majority of the crap is from the Rockefeller Institute. All the big tycoons from the early 1900s and late 1800s. And why I bring this up is something happened in the 1800s that we are not being told about. So a little bit what I'm going to talk about today is the Tortarian Empire. There's been a lot of people talking about it. And when you start looking into it, a lot of it makes sense. We have a lot of buildings across America that cannot be built today. Now, I can put my expertise in this. I have been in the construction world for 22 years, both commercial and residential. I'm a certified project manager. I've worked in the field. I've scheduled construction from schools to hotels, medical buildings, million-dollar homes, etc. So from the material that we use today is inferior to what was used just a few hundred years ago. So we look at maybe some of these college buildings, these government buildings, banks, etc. These buildings are built with stone, whether it be limestone, granite, marble. There is not a chance in hell that was done by people with donkeys and horses on wagons going through dirt roads. Now, a lot of the info we try to get, or I try to get, whether it's from city records, municipal records, or even looking at Wikipedia. And it's the same storyline. It was this so-called architect was picked from out of 10 to 20 architects like it was a contest. And it's like they either built one, maybe two buildings, allegedly, and then you never heard from them again. They never built anything else. they built these massive cathedrals or castle-like buildings that look like something that was built in Rome or Egypt. That cannot be done today. They had airships back then. They had wireless energy. How did they do it? A big part of me, by just researching it, where I can infer and put my hypothesis on it, is that nothing under the sun is new. We've had this technology, and it was stripped from us. You go back and you look at some of the pictures of Chicago from the mid to late 1800s. It is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like Greece or Rome, but it was all destroyed. Almost all of these buildings around the country were destroyed. They claim it was by fire. Just these magical fires appeared. But I'll tell you what, fire cannot burn stone or granite or marble that easily. Now we have pictures that are allegedly from the Civil War, where we see all of these buildings that look like they were demoed. And even if you look at the pictures after they claim it, these buildings were destroyed by fire, they look like they were demolished purposely. Now, we do still have plenty of buildings standing, but they say they were founded. Now, founded legally means the building was found and then occupied. Unlike other places that were incorporated, which that goes into something else. That's in articles of incorporation. So some of this shit is just mind-boggling. And the Tortarians had a symbol that they used. It was the griffin. And you take a look at a lot of the buildings in America, they have griffins on these buildings. Not just in America, but throughout the world. Now, there's talks about mud floods. And yes, a lot of these buildings look like they were dug out. Like the pyramids, they were dug out from the sand. A lot of buildings in America were dug out from the dirt or hills, mounds, you can call them. It's just amazing at the stuff that we are not told about or even talked about. So my question is the founding of our country, did they know about this? Because it seems as if in the 1700s, they were very smart. They wrote very poetically. They spoke with such high intelligence and regard compared to what we have today. But I employ everybody, just take a look at the Tartarian Empire. It is on old maps. Now, I'm not going to go on here and say I'm a Holocaust denier or any of this other stuff. That just takes you into a whole other world. But it seems like Adolf Hitler was part of that Tortarian knowledge. Free wireless energy. Knowing how to construct these beautiful, massive, glorious buildings that don't seem like it would have been that hard. And I'll tell you, today it is virtually impossible to ever recreate something like this with all of the machinery, technology, manpower we have today. You cannot carve these phenomenal statues and faces and pictures in marble or granite or stone. And there's lots of evidence to support that these buildings were actually electrically conductive. Bricks conduct electricity. Now it's verified we had airships in the 1800s. We were able to go anywhere at very low cost, basically free. You look back at these world fairs, you had millions of people traveling all over the world. A lot more then than where people are traveling today. How is that possible? Just something to think about. It makes me think about the Freemasons as well. Because we have two types. You had the operative Freemasons, which were builders. Then you have what you call speculative Masons, which are Masonic and have a completely different agenda. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. They were Freemasons, but they were builders. Not many people know that the Freemasons actually went to war in the 1700s. You had the builders and you had the Masonic ones that actually went to war. So speculative Masonry uses the symbols for something different. Take it, I'll give you an example. The Masonic apron. Speculative Masonry uses the Masonic apron to cover your private part, which is covering the spark of life from the male reproductive organ. Operative Masons wore aprons which either showed their skill level or rank. Kind of like we do in a commercial and an industrial construction setting today. You have your apprentice, you have your master, etc. I mean, there's so much knowledge out there, concepts, ideas. Like it foretells in the Bible, knowledge will increase. It definitely has. The internet has revolutionized knowledge. Not that everything on the internet is true. You have to have discernment and self-autonomy. And you have to understand pattern recognition. Not just believing everything that you see right off the get-go. It employs you to research more. prove all things. Don't just believe something you see at the first glance. Just like the war between the heliocentrists and I don't like using the term flat earth because it automatically becomes dismissive. People think you're crazy. So I refer it to as a level or plane of existence. And even Nikola Tesla said we live in a realm. I probably looked into this 10 years ago. Because when I first heard of it, of course, my cognitive dissonance, I was automatically like, this is absolutely crazy. This is for nut jobs. Of course, the Earth is a blue ball whizzing through a vacuum. But believe it or not, most people have no idea what they believe when they think the Earth is a globe, because you don't learn shit about that model until you actually start researching it. That is what blew me away. And when you start looking into military documents, you had Admiral Byrd. Now, he was a Freemason. But yet, you had Operation High Jump in Antarctica, where he talked about land bigger than North America that had vast resources. But he mysteriously died from a alleged heart attack. We'll never know exactly. You have footage from back then. You have writings in the encyclopedia stating, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was the 1958 Encyclopedia Britannica that said there is a solid dome at 13,500 feet beyond the 60th parallel. So they did find something. Then all of a sudden, all of the countries that we were at war with just so happened to be able to agree with each other to come up with the Antarctic Treaty, is that nobody could own it, claim it. It was only for said scientific research. We had a couple more operations. We had Operation Dominic, Operation Fistball, where they were trying to shoot missiles to blow up the firmament because they knew there was a barrier. You cannot have a low pressure system next to a high pressure system without a barrier. It's physically impossible. Even Albert Einstein said there is no experiment that could prove that the Earth moves. There was an experiment done by Michelson and Morley, which during those times, everybody knew there was an ether, and they were able to show that the Earth is not moving. So the only way for the globe model to work and gravity to be the god of the said model was, all right, let's get rid of the ether and we'll have something called space-time. But to me, Albert Einstein knew. I mean, our optics today have outgrown the lies. We never went to the moon. That's complete bullshit. They were Freemasons that went to the moon. They brought a Freemasonic flag and established a Masonic temple, allegedly, up there. So for anybody who believes that we went to the moon today, you're already lost. Rethink that. NASA was founded to make people believe the Earth was a ball. Don't forget, we had Universal Pictures in the 1920s showing a ball Earth in outer space. In my opinion, yes, we have outer space, which I think is outer lands. And we do have extraterrestrials. They are just people from extra territory, not from some billion light years away. These numbers they give you that nobody can fathom, not even themselves. I mean, 1 trillion seconds is almost 32,000 years. Just think about that. Even with the debt we have, 1 trillion seconds is equivalent to almost 32,000 years. But I'd love to know what you guys think on the subjects of the Earth, of the Tortarian Empire. Do people really think that we experienced the Great Reset over 100 years ago? Are we heading towards something like that again? It's very impervious to understand these things, not just comprehend, but to truly understand the world, how it works, what really happened back in time. How did we get to where we are now? Where are we going? Can we fix where we're going? Can we alter the future that's being bestowed before us? Because if people cannot critically think and change their paradigm, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. Like the two-party system. And people think that they vote for the president, which they don't. I can tell you 100 years ago, people hated the president and threw rocks at him. People worship him like they're a king. So where did we go wrong? Anyways, guys, I'd like to hear some feedback. Tell me what you think. I'll be doing another podcast next week. We'll dive into some other topics. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the Tortarian Empire. We'll talk a little bit more about the flat earth and the heliocentric model. A little bit more about history of our country and some other countries. So I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Saturday night and stay tuned. God bless.